Imagine being dropped into one of the hottest, most unforgiving environments on Earth, with nothing but a backpack and your will to survive. What if, despite all your training, you found yourself completely and utterly lost in that desert, with no water, no food, and no hope of rescue? This is the story of Mauro Prosperi, a man who survived 133 hours in the Sahara Desert against all odds. His tale is one of unbelievable endurance, a fight against the elements, and the most extreme test of human willpower. In 1994, Mauro Prosperi, an experienced Italian ultramarathon runner, entered the Marathon des Sables, one of the toughest races in the world. Known as the toughest foot race on Earth, this event spans 155 miles through the Sahara Desert, pushing every competitor to their physical and mental limits. The race isn't just about running. It's about surviving the extreme heat of the desert, navigating through endless dunes, and carrying everything you need on your back. Mauro was no stranger to hard races. He was used to long distances and extreme conditions, and he approached the Marathon des Sables with confidence. The first few days went as planned. Mauro maintained a strong pace, making his way through the hot desert with a small group of other runners. But on the fourth day, everything changed. A violent sandstorm struck, and within moments, the desert was transformed. The wind howled like a beast, picking up sand and turning the sky into an impenetrable wall of dust. For hours, the storm raged on, reducing visibility to nearly zero. Most of the runners stopped, huddling together to wait out the storm. But Mauro, believing that the storm would pass quickly, kept pushing forward, certain he could outrun it. That decision would prove to be his first mistake. When the sandstorm finally calmed, Mauro realized something horrifying. He had no idea where he was. The landscape around him was unrecognizable. He was completely off course. His compass, which had always been reliable, was useless now. The shifting dunes had altered his position. For the first time in his life, Mauro found himself lost in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and he had no way of knowing which direction to go. He told himself to stay calm. After all, he had supplies, energy bars, some water, and the knowledge of how to survive in extreme conditions. But the desert is not an environment that forgives mistakes. As hours turned into days, the reality of his situation began to sink in. Mauro's first priority was to ration his food and water, but the harsh desert heat and brutal sun drained him faster than he anticipated. Within the first day of being lost, his water supply dwindled, and his food was running low. The next night, as the temperature dropped to freezing, he wrapped himself in his sleeping bag and tried to sleep, but he was too anxious, too scared to rest. The following day, Mauro tried to make his way east, hoping to find the race route or some sign of other competitors. But the Sahara is vast, and every direction seemed the same. His compass was still useless, and his energy was fading fast. By now, he was exhausted, dehydrated, and confused. The desert, once an exciting challenge, had become a nightmare. On the third day, he began to feel the weight of isolation. Mauro had always been a strong, independent man, but in the vast emptiness of the desert, he realized how fragile his survival truly was. He was alone, and the nearest help could be days or even weeks away, but he refused to give up. His supplies were gone by the fourth day. No food, no water. The Sahara Desert, with its vast dunes and blistering sun, showed no mercy. At this point, Mauro was forced to make desperate decisions. He resorted to collecting dew that formed on the edges of his sleeping bag during the cool desert nights, squeezing out every drop in an attempt to stay hydrated. Mauro also turned to any source of food he could find. On the fifth day, while wandering through the desert, he discovered an old, abandoned Muslim shrine. Inside the shrine, he found bats. The idea of eating raw bats was unthinkable to most people, but Mauro's survival instinct kicked in. He ate them, using every bit of the bat to fuel his failing body. Days blurred together as Mauro pushed himself to the limit. His body weakened, his muscles atrophied, the mental strain became unbearable. Yet, through all the pain, the exhaustion, and the hopelessness, one thought kept him going: his family. He thought of his wife, his children, and what they would think if they never saw him again. This was the only thing that kept him going when his body begged for rest. On the 8th day, Mauro's hope was nearly gone. He had no more strength to continue, but something miraculous happened. In the distance, he saw movement. At first, he thought he was hallucinating, but as the figure grew closer, he realized he wasn't dreaming. A group of nomadic herders appeared, and they saw him. Mauro used the last of his energy to wave them down, and they rushed to his aid. The nomads provided him with water and food, something Mauro hadn't had in days. They helped him get to safety, where he was eventually rescued and flown to a hospital in Algeria. Mauro had survived an ordeal that most people would never believe possible. He was severely dehydrated, had lost more than 35 pounds, and had endured unimaginable pain and suffering. But he was alive. Mauro's story didn't just make headlines. It became a symbol of human endurance and resilience. He wasn't just a survivor of the desert. He was a testament to the power of the human spirit. When asked about his experience, Mauro said, "The desert tested me, but it also taught me. It showed me that survival isn't just about food or water. It's about willpower. It's about the mind. Your body can only go so far, but your mind, if you keep it strong, will take you to places you never thought possible." Mauro returned to the Marathon des Sables after his rescue, determined to prove that nothing, especially the Sahara, could defeat him. His incredible survival story continues to inspire people around the world. His journey reminds us that, in the face of adversity, the true battle is within. When everything seems lost, when all hope is gone, the strength to survive comes not from the body, but from the heart. Mauro Prosperi proved that, even in the most extreme circumstances, it's the will to live that carries us forward.